After this journey through the hidden corridors of power, from ancient civilizations to modern secret societies, one question remains: who truly controls the world we think we know? From the Freemasons and Skull and Bones to Bohemian Grove, Bilderberg, Opus Dei, and global criminal networks, the influence of these organizations spans centuries, shaping politics, economies, and society in ways most will never see. But knowledge is the first step toward awakening. By understanding how these secret networks operate, we begin to reclaim our perspective and recognize the subtle forces guiding human destiny. If you've watched this far, thank you for joining us in uncovering the truths history tried to hide. Share your thoughts. Tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mysteries of Earth, because the more we uncover, the closer we come to understanding the world as it truly is. Long before the rise of modern empires and secret societies, there were civilizations that understood the world in ways that still elude us today. In the deserts of Egypt, the Great Pyramids rose from the sands, not merely as tombs, but as precise monuments aligned with the stars, encoding knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and the very forces that govern life itself. Priests and scholars moved quietly through these temples, guardians of forbidden wisdom, their teachings passed down only to the chosen few, inscribed in hieroglyphs that held layers of meaning for generations yet unborn. Across the fertile crescent of Babylon, a different kind of power thrived. Here, kings relied not only on armies, but on astrologers and mathematicians who claimed to understand the movements of the heavens and the hidden patterns of human destiny. Ziggurats towered over the cities, symbols of both earthly might and celestial connection. In the shadows of these great structures, secret cults and learned orders preserved ancient texts, knowledge of medicine, engineering, and law, ensuring that wisdom was never entirely lost to time or conquest. Meanwhile, in the city-states of Greece, philosophers debated openly in the agora, yet even they spoke in guarded terms of truths too potent for the uninitiated. Pythagoras, Plato, and other thinkers were said to belong to hidden circles, transmitting esoteric knowledge through allegory, geometry, and symbolism. These early keepers of wisdom understood that knowledge itself was a form of power, a subtle influence over rulers, societies, and the unfolding of history. What was visible, the architecture, the political structures, the libraries, was only a fraction of the secrets these societies held. In all of these ancient lands, secrecy was not simply a matter of pride. It was survival. Knowledge could elevate, but it could also destroy. The ability to understand the cycles of nature, the hidden forces of the cosmos, and the intricacies of human behavior allowed those who held it to shape events quietly, subtly, often invisibly. Whether through ritual, meditation, or encoded symbols, the wisdom of these civilizations was deliberately cloaked, passed down through generations in forms that could be understood only by those trained to see beneath the surface. The legacy of these early secret keepers is clear even today. Architecture, philosophy, mathematics, and religious symbolism all carry echoes of this hidden past. The principles first safeguarded in the temples of Egypt, the towers of Babylon, and the philosophical schools of Greece became the foundation for later societies who would seek to protect and control knowledge. The guilds, the lodges, and eventually the secretive organizations of the modern age. In this way, history itself is a story of continuity, where each generation of guardians carefully chooses what to reveal, what to hide, and how power, quiet, unseen, yet profoundly effective, can shape the world. Before Freemasons, before influential lodges and societies, there were the ancients, quietly steering humanity through understanding, observation, and secrecy. Their power was not wielded with armies or gold, but through wisdom, knowledge, and the ability to influence those who made history. It is here, in the silent corridors of the past, that the story of hidden power truly begins. A story that will echo across the centuries, reaching even into our modern world, where secret knowledge continues to shape events in ways most of us can only imagine. In the shadow of Europe's towering cathedrals and sprawling castles, long before the rise of modern states and the Enlightenment, there existed a group of men whose craft transcended mere stone and mortar. These were the stonemasons, artisans whose hands carved not just the physical structures of a civilization, but the hidden language of knowledge itself. Every archway, every pillar, and every secret chamber within the grand cathedrals held lessons in geometry, harmony, and the subtle order of the cosmos. For these men, building was more than a profession. It was a sacred act, a way to preserve wisdom passed down through the centuries from civilizations long forgotten. As the Middle Ages progressed, these skilled guilds began to transform. What had once been a practical craft evolved into something far greater, a repository of philosophical, moral, and esoteric knowledge. Master masons took apprentices not only to teach them how to shape stone, but to guide them through rituals, allegories, and teachings that illuminated the deeper mysteries of existence. Hidden within these lodges, a culture of secrecy and intellectual curiosity flourished. Here, lessons were passed quietly, carefully, and only to those deemed worthy. The lodges became sanctuaries of knowledge, blending practical skill with spiritual insight. By the early 18th century, these lodges coalesced into a formal society that would endure for centuries, the Freemasons. Emerging officially in England, the Freemasons were more than a guild. They were a brotherhood devoted to preserving ancient wisdom, bridging the practical and the mystical, the visible and the hidden. Their teachings drew inspiration from the knowledge of Egypt, Babylon, and Greece, merging the secrets of mathematics, philosophy, and moral law into a subtle yet profound system. Symbols such as the compass, the square, and the all-seeing eye were not mere decorations. They were instruments of moral and intellectual guidance, designed to elevate the mind and instill principles of balance, discipline, and ethical conduct. The genius of the Freemasons lay in their quiet influence. To the outside world, they were craftsmen, scholars, and respected members of society. Yet behind closed doors, they cultivated a network of knowledge that would subtly shape the course of nations. Their lodges became centers of thought, where ideas were nurtured and revolutionary ideals were first discussed in hushed tones. Philosophers, scientists, writers, and political leaders were drawn to their ranks, recognizing that true power often lay not in armies or wealth, but in understanding, wisdom, and the ability to inspire change. Across Europe, the Freemasons' influence spread. From the salons of Paris to the streets of London, their ideals, fraternity, reason, moral development, and the pursuit of knowledge, slowly permeated society. Their teachings inspired innovation, intellectual exploration, and social reform, even as their methods remained hidden from public view. Freemasonry became a living bridge between the ancient and the modern, safeguarding knowledge that could guide humanity, influence politics, and shape history itself. Yet the Freemasons' most enduring legacy was their subtlety. Their power was not wielded with force, but with ideas. Every ritual, every symbol, every secret gesture was part of a larger design: to elevate the mind, cultivate virtue, and preserve the wisdom of civilizations past. From medieval stonemasons to the modern lodges scattered across the world, the Freemasons remind us that history is often shaped not by kings and armies alone, but in quiet rooms, by those who hold knowledge, and by the ideas they carefully sow into the world. Throughout history, humans have sought to understand the hidden laws that govern the universe, patterns in nature, the cycles of the cosmos, and the invisible threads connecting life, knowledge, and power. Some of the most profound insights were preserved not in books or scrolls, but in symbols, carefully hidden signs, etched into stone and wood, passed down through secret orders that understood the importance of preserving knowledge in silence. Among the Freemasons and similar ancient societies, the compass and the square emerged as tools far more than mere instruments of construction. They became the language of an invisible order. The compass, its points drawing infinite circles, symbolized balance, measurement, and the moral boundaries that must guide human action. The square, straight and true, represented honesty, integrity, and the ability to align one's life with higher laws. When combined, these symbols encoded an understanding that life, society, and the universe were all governed by hidden patterns, waiting to be deciphered by those who sought the truth. But these symbols were not always overt. They were layered, embedded in the very fabric of architecture. Gothic cathedrals, Renaissance palaces, and stately manor houses concealed secret markings, proportions, and alignments that conveyed messages to the initiated while remaining invisible to the untrained eye. In these hidden designs, one could find the blueprint of a philosophical universe. Numbers with mystical significance, angles that reflected celestial harmonies, and motifs that symbolized virtues such as wisdom, courage, and temperance. Some scholars suggest that even the great pyramids of Egypt and Greek temples were aligned and proportioned according to similar principles, hinting at a continuity of knowledge that stretched across continents and millennia. For those within the order, every building ritual. As a textbook, every ritual a lesson in geometry, ethics, and cosmic law. To outsiders, these were simply magnificent structures. To the initiated, they were maps to understanding the hidden workings of the world. Beyond architecture, symbols were carried into ceremonies, tools, and even everyday objects. Rings, pendants, and medallions often bore subtle engravings, serving as reminders of one's moral duties, intellectual pursuits, and place within a larger order. Rituals themselves were rich with symbolic meaning. Every gesture, every phrase, every object held layers of instruction, guiding members toward higher consciousness, self-mastery, and understanding of universal laws. Through these symbols, knowledge was not just conveyed, it was lived, practiced, and internalized. What makes these symbols truly powerful is their subtlety. They do not coerce, they invite contemplation. They suggest a path rather than dictate it. They encourage observation, reasoning, and ethical alignment. And over centuries, these visual codes became a silent language, binding members of secret orders together across time and geography, allowing ideas to travel where words could not. They served as both safeguard and guide, a bridge between the physical and spiritual, the known and the hidden. In essence, the compass and square, along with the countless other symbols scattered across architecture and artifacts, were far more than decoration. They were keys to hidden knowledge, moral insight, and the understanding of forces that shape history and human destiny. They remind us that power is not always wielded openly, and that some truths are too precious, too dangerous, or too profound to be revealed without preparation. For those who learn to read the language of the invisible order, the world is transformed. Every structure, every design, every hidden mark becomes a message from the pastors. A whisper from those who walked before us, guiding humanity along a path of knowledge, balance, and perhaps mastery of destiny itself. Revolutions do not erupt spontaneously. They are not mere accidents of history, born from chaos alone. Beneath the roar of battle and the fervor of crowds, there are currents, hidden networks, ideas, and influences that shape the direction of nations long before the first gun is fired. Among these subtle forces, the Freemasons stand as one of history's most enigmatic architects, leaving invisible fingerprints on the revolutions that reshaped the modern world. In the 18th century, as the old world trembled under the weight of absolutism, the ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity began to stir in the hearts of men. Masonic lodges, once humble gatherings of craftsmen and philosophers, had become crucibles of intellectual thought. Within the candlelit halls of these lodges, men debated philosophy, law, and morality. They discussed the rights of individuals, the responsibilities of rulers, and the principles of justice. Their symbols and rituals were more than spiritual exercises. They were tools to instill discipline, secrecy, and vision, preparing members to act upon the world with purpose. When the American colonies began their struggle against British rule, Freemasons were quietly present in key moments. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere, all men tied to Masonic lodges, carried principles learned in these secretive assemblies into the founding of a nation. The very language of the Declaration of Independence, with its emphasis on natural rights and the inherent equality of men, resonates with the moral philosophy cultivated within Masonic halls. It was a revolution not merely of arms, but of ideas, where the principles of governance and personal liberty were forged in secrecy before being announced to the world. Across the Atlantic, France was simmering under the weight of monarchy and inequality. In the salons of Paris and the lodges of secret societies, conversations about the rights of citizens and the responsibilities of rulers reached fevered intensity. Many leaders of the French Revolution, inspired by ideals of rational governance, human dignity, and equality before the law, had been Masons. They understood that revolution was not just a matter of rebellion, it was an intellectual and moral undertaking, requiring careful planning, alliances, and the cultivation of ideas that could endure beyond the immediate turmoil. The influence of the Freemasons extended beyond ideology. They nurtured networks of trust, loyalty, and mutual support that allowed revolutionary movements to survive when others were crushed. Their symbols, rituals, and coded communications provided both guidance and protection, enabling members to coordinate actions, share strategy, and inspire confidence in uncertain times. Even when the public celebrated freedom and reform, the subtle hand of these secret orders often guided the flow of events, ensuring that the outcome aligned with a vision of a more balanced and enlightened society. Yet the power of the Freemasons was never overt. There were no flags bearing their emblems on the battlefield, no public proclamations of influence. Their role was invisible, embedded in the architecture of thought, in the shaping of laws, and in the moral compass of leaders. They remind us that history is rarely written solely by kings or armies. It is molded in quiet rooms, in whispered debates, and in the careful planting of ideas that ripple outward to transform entire nations. The American and French revolutions stand as monuments to change, yet beneath the surface lies a more profound story. The Freemasons' influence is a testament to the power of knowledge, secrecy, and disciplined action. Through their lodges, they shaped ideals that would endure for centuries, leaving a legacy both hidden and profound. In the story of these revolutions, we see how invisible hands, guided by wisdom and vision, can move the course of history itself, quietly steering humanity toward concepts of freedom, justice, and the possibility of a world governed not only by force, but by understanding and principle. The pursuit of knowledge has always been a sacred journey, one that reaches beyond the tangible and the visible. For the Freemasons, this quest was not merely an intellectual exercise. It was a path toward understanding the hidden laws of the universe and the deeper potential of human consciousness. In their lodges, illuminated by flickering candlelight, men of varied backgrounds, from stonemasons to philosophers, scholars, and visionaries, gathered to explore truths that ordinary eyes could not see. Every ritual, symbol, and allegory was designed not only to teach, but to awaken the mind, urging initiates to look beyond the material world into the spiritual and cosmic order that governs all things. The Freemasons believed that knowledge was power, but it was not power for conquest alone. It was the power to shape oneself, to cultivate wisdom, and ultimately, to guide humanity toward a higher understanding of existence. The tools of their craft, the compass and the square, the hidden symbols carved into architecture, served as reminders that balance, morality, and harmony were essential in both life and the universe. Geometry, mathematics, and sacred symbolism were more than abstract disciplines. They were keys to decoding the patterns of creation itself. Every line drawn, every stone laid, every coded message whispered in secret halls was a lesson in the infinite connections between man, nature, and the cosmos. Beyond the tangible, the lodges nurtured philosophical inquiry. Members debated the mysteries of the universe, the origins of life, the nature of the soul, the laws of cause and effect, and the unseen energies that shaped reality. In these conversations, ideas that might have seemed impossible to the outside world were given life. They examined astrology, ancient texts, forgotten myths, and the wisdom of civilizations long lost, believing that understanding these forces could illuminate the path to moral and spiritual elevation. Knowledge, they understood, was both shield and sword. It empowered those who sought it, but demanded discipline, humility, and responsibility. The Masonic vision extended beyond individual enlightenment. They saw the potential to influence human destiny, to plant the seeds of ideas that could grow into social progress and collective awakening. Every member, once initiated, carried with him not only personal insight, but the duty to apply it in the world, shaping communities, laws, and governance with the principles learned in the quiet sanctuary of the lodge. This was a society that recognized the unseen power of wisdom, the ability to guide, to heal, and, when necessary, to protect humanity from itself. Yet the pursuit of ultimate knowledge was not without peril. Secrets could be misunderstood or misused. Ambition unchecked could lead to corruption, and curiosity could tempt men toward darkness. The Freemasons countered this by embedding moral lessons in every ritual, ensuring that the search for truth was inseparable from virtue. The journey itself became the teaching. Enlightenment demanded patience, discipline, and the courage to confront the unknown within and without. Through centuries, this quest for knowledge transformed the Freemasons from skilled artisans into custodians of wisdom. They became scholars of the universe, keepers of moral and cosmic truths, and silent guides of human progress. Their influence rippled outward subtly, shaping science, philosophy, and society, leaving invisible marks on the course of history. The lodges were more than meeting places. They were laboratories of the mind and soul, incubators of the ideas that could one day elevate humanity. In the end, the Freemasons' quest for ultimate knowledge reminds us that the pursuit of truth is both personal and universal. It is a journey that transcends time, connecting past and present, the seen and unseen, the human and the divine. Every symbol, every lesson, every secret whispered in the shadowed halls of the lodges was part of a grand design, to awaken consciousness, to illuminate the mysteries of existence, and to guide humanity toward its highest potential. The 18th century was a time of illumination and upheaval. Across Europe, the Age of Reason stirred minds, challenging tradition, monarchy, and the very foundations of knowledge. It was an era when curiosity burned like a hidden fire, when scholars, philosophers, and thinkers sought to understand the universe not through dogma, but through inquiry. Amid this ferment, secret societies began to emerge, not merely as clubs of intellectuals, but as subtle architects of change, wielding knowledge and influence with discretion, patience, and extraordinary ambition. These societies were composed of men and women who dared to imagine a world guided not by inherited power, but by reason, morality, and wisdom. They gathered in private salons, candlelit chambers, and hidden lodges, sharing ideas that could not yet be spoken aloud in the public square. Their conversations ranged from the mechanics of government to the nature of human consciousness, from mathematics and philosophy to the hidden forces of history itself. Within these circles, knowledge became both weapon and shield, an instrument to guide societies toward progress and a safeguard against the chaos of ignorance. The genius of these Enlightenment societies lay in subtlety. They understood that change imposed too abruptly could be met with resistance, fear, and violence. So they worked behind closed doors, nurturing ideas that would later surface as revolutions, reforms, and philosophical movements. Codes, allegories, and rituals ensured that only the initiated could fully grasp the depth of their teachings. Symbols carved into documents, architecture, and even personal artifacts became conduits of hidden knowledge, linking members across cities, nations, and continents. Some of these societies were devoted to ethics and philosophy, others to science, art, and the hidden harmonies of the cosmos. Yet all shared a common purpose: to elevate human understanding, to explore the boundaries of reason, and to influence the course of history from the shadows. They believed that true power was not wielded through armies or crowns alone, but through the quiet shaping of ideas, the mentorship of minds, and the careful planting of seeds that would blossom into societal transformation. In this era, the world began to witness subtle but undeniable shifts. Revolutions, political reforms, and scientific breakthroughs were not always spontaneous. Sometimes they bore the fingerprints of these clandestine networks. Ideas born in private lodges would find their way into public discourse, inspiring revolts against tyranny, the creation of democratic principles, and the establishment of new scientific paradigms. The Enlightenment secret societies were architects of possibility, shaping the future without ever stepping into the light. Yet their work was not without peril. Secrecy was essential, for the stakes were high. Those who sought to suppress change, monarchs, religious authorities, and entrenched elites, were vigilant and unforgiving. Betrayal could mean exile, imprisonment, or death. In response, these societies developed complex hierarchies, codes of loyalty, and rigorous initiation rites. Every member was tested, every idea weighed, ensuring that only those of integrity and vision could carry forward the mission. By the close of the 18th century, these intellectual societies had transformed from small gatherings into sophisticated networks of influence. They became the quiet arbiters of change, linking thinkers, visionaries, and future leaders. Their reach extended across borders, connecting cities like Paris, London, Vienna, and Edinburgh through invisible threads of conversation, collaboration, and shared purpose. The knowledge they preserved, the lessons they imparted, and the decisions they influenced were often invisible to the public eye, yet they shaped the foundations of modern society in profound ways. The story of these Enlightenment secret societies is a reminder that progress is rarely linear or obvious. History is not only written in battles, decrees, and speeches, but in whispered ideas, in quiet chambers, and in the minds of those who are to think beyond the visible. These societies demonstrate that the true architects of civilization often work unseen, leaving subtle yet enduring traces on the world. In the intricate web of history, not all power is visible. While kings commanded armies and emperors issued decrees, another form of influence moved quietly, almost imperceptibly. Behind the grand stages of revolutions, wars, and political upheavals, secret societies operated with precision, infiltrating organizations, guilds, and institutions to subtly shape the course of human events. Their strength lay not in armies or weapons, but in knowledge, strategy, and the patient orchestration of ideas. These societies understood a fundamental truth. The most profound control is rarely exercised openly. Power wielded in public invites scrutiny, resistance, and revolt. Instead, they worked like masterful chess players, placing ideas, individuals, and influence in precise positions to guide outcomes without anyone noticing. By embedding themselves within governments, academies, religious institutions, and commercial networks, they became silent architects of change. Every law passed, every movement funded, every policy debated could carry their hidden fingerprints. Initiates learned that influence was a delicate art. It required subtlety, persuasion, and an intimate understanding of human nature. Through mentorship, secret correspondence, and coded communication, members could direct leaders, sway councils, and guide social movements. Wars might be encouraged or avoided, economic policies shaped, and revolutionary ideas nurtured, all without a single public declaration. To the untrained eye, events appeared organic, spontaneous, and inevitable. Yet beneath the surface, they were often guided by the careful calculations of those who preferred shadows over spotlight. The genius of these societies was in infiltration. By joining influential circles, political assemblies, military ranks, scholarly academies, they gained access to the levers of power. They did not seek to dominate only but to become indispensable, trusted advisors, scholars, and confidants. Through these positions, subtle nudges could ripple outward, shaping public sentiment, steering debates, and planting concepts that would later bear fruit in the corridors of power. History, in many cases, was less the product of random chance than the outcome of unseen hands guiding events with near imperceptible force. Beyond politics, their influence extended into culture and knowledge. Literature, art, and science became conduits for ideas that could shape the worldview of entire generations. Hidden allegories, symbols, and teachings infiltrated society's consciousness, shaping morality, belief, and ambition. In this way, secret societies did not merely react to history. They helped mold it, ensuring that certain ideas, values, and paths would endure while others faded into obscurity. Yet operating in the shadows required vigilance. Secrets were maintained through strict codes, oaths, and loyalty. Betrayal could be catastrophic. Exposure could destroy not just the society, but entire plans that had taken decades to cultivate. Initiates were trained to think several steps ahead, to anticipate resistance, and to weave influence invisibly. Every decision, every action was carefully measured to ensure the broader mission remained intact. By the end of the Enlightenment and into the modern era, these societies had mastered the subtle art of control. Their influence reached across continents, transcending borders and political systems. No empire, no democracy, no institution was entirely untouched by their careful guidance. What appeared as natural historical progression often concealed the hand of the patient, unseen strategist. The lesson they leave is both fascinating and unsettling. History is not only written in open battles and public decrees, it is also shaped by those who act from the shadows, guiding humanity with quiet precision, invisible to the majority of observers. In a world that prizes transparency and visibility, it is a reminder that the most powerful forces are sometimes those we never see. Forces that move silently, shaping destinies and leaving marks only visible to those who know where to look. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the intricate carvings of medieval cathedrals, symbols have always carried meanings far beyond what meets the eye. For those who understood their secrets, these symbols were more than decoration. They were tools of knowledge, influence, and even control. Among these, one image repeatedly appears across time and civilizations: the all-seeing eye, watching, judging, and reminding humanity that unseen forces were always at work. The pyramid itself, rising from the desert sands, is not merely a tomb, it is a testament to power and vision. Its precise angles, celestial alignment, and monumental scale were carefully designed to convey authority, permanence, and cosmic connection. Within these stones, hidden codes encoded knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and energy, accessible only to the few who understood their meaning. To the uninitiated, the pyramid was awe-inspiring, even intimidating. To those who knew its secrets, it was a tool, a monument that silently projected influence across generations. The all-seeing eye, often perched atop pyramids or woven into hidden corners of architecture, carries an even more deliberate message. It represents surveillance, awareness, and the subtle guidance of those who operate beyond the visible. Throughout history, this symbol has appeared in art, coins, and manuscripts, a quiet reminder that power often functions unseen and that knowledge itself is a form of authority. Those who wielded such symbols understood that influence need not be overt. It could be encoded in culture, whispered in allegories, and embedded in sacred geometry. Symbols served as bridges between the known and the unknown. The compass and square, the labyrinthine patterns of Gothic cathedrals, and even hidden inscriptions in political buildings were carefully designed to communicate ideas of balance, order, and discipline, the P. They were tools for those who sought to shape thought, behavior, and perception without ever speaking a word. A symbol could inspire, manipulate, and even intimidate, all while remaining inscrutable to the majority of humanity. Across continents and eras, these icons became instruments of both unity and control. They allowed secret societies, rulers and scholars to communicate hidden truths, assert authority, and perpetuate influence over vast populations. Pyramids, statues, cryptic codes, each held layers of meaning, accessible only to those trained to see beyond the surface. The uninitiated might admire their beauty or craftsmanship, but the initiated understood their deeper function: to guide, to monitor, and to maintain a subtle order over the world. Even in modern times, these symbols persist, quietly shaping culture, finance, and politics. Corporate logos, ceremonial regalia, and architectural motifs echo ancient designs, reminding us that the messages of power and surveillance are never truly lost. They bridge the ancient and the modern, hinting at a continuity of influence that stretches across centuries. For those who study them, they are proof that control is often less about force and more about perception, a silent architecture of authority embedded in the very fabric of civilization. To observe these symbols is to witness history itself encoded in stone, ink, and structure. They speak of knowledge passed in secrecy, of the vigilant presence of unseen hands, and of the enduring power of ideas that transcend time. They are reminders that influence often flows silently, and that the world we perceive may always be shaped by forces just beyond our sight. In the end, symbols are not merely relics of the past, they are enduring instruments of guidance and control. They challenge us to look deeper, to question what is visible, and to recognize that much of history's power has always been hidden in plain sight. History often presents revolutions as spontaneous eruptions of popular will, but beneath the surface of these dramatic events, there are hints of subtle orchestration. The streets of Paris, the cries for liberty in America, and the upheaval across Europe were not always purely the work of the masses. Somewhere in the shadows, hidden societies whispered ideas, distributed literature, and guided key figures, planting seeds that would later explode into monumental change. The French Revolution, perhaps the most iconic of these upheavals, did not emerge from chaos alone. Behind the roaring crowds and storming of the Bastille, influential thinkers and secret networks circulated revolutionary philosophies, shaping the ambitions of men who would become leaders. Societies devoted to knowledge, moral principles, and esoteric teachings understood the power of ideas to shape history. They knew that armies alone do not change the course of nations. It is the collective mindset of the people, guided by subtle influence, that truly shifts the tides. Across Europe, clandestine meetings and hidden correspondence carried the ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity far beyond salons and coffeehouses. Philosophers debated morality, ethics, and governance in private chambers, often in the company of those who would later command armies, draft constitutions, and ignite revolts. These gatherings were not merely academic, they were strategic, a form of intellectual preparation for the upheavals that would soon sweep across nations. Revolutions are remembered for their violence, their rallies, and their proclamations, but few notice the invisible architecture behind them. Secret societies, connected by shared ideals and networks of trust, provided more than inspiration. They offered coordination, moral justification, and a framework for action. Letters smuggled across borders, cryptic symbol, and coded messages helped unify otherwise scattered groups, ensuring that the momentum of rebellion did not falter. In this quiet orchestration, revolutions were carefully nurtured, guided by hands that never appeared on public stages. The American Revolution followed a similar hidden rhythm. While kings, generals, and politicians battled openly, shadow networks influenced alliances, funding, and strategy. Correspondence between secret lodges and thinkers offered guidance that shaped colonial decisions, reinforcing the notion that knowledge and discreet counsel could alter the destiny of entire nations. Wars may have been fought in the open, but the ideas that fueled them traveled in silence, carried by those who understood the invisible currents of power. Even in moments of chaos, the hand of secrecy remains. Revolutionary symbols, oaths, and rituals were often borrowed from older traditions, embedding layers of meaning and cohesion among participants. The fire of revolt, while visible in the streets, was kindled long before by minds working in secrecy, ensuring that when the moment arrived, change would be decisive, organized, and irreversible. Revolutions engineered in silence are a reminder that history is rarely shaped solely by what we see. Behind every uprising, there is often a hidden architecture of influence, guiding events in subtle yet profound ways. Power is as much about ideas and strategy as it is about swords and cannons, and secret societies have long understood this truth. To witness history through this lens is to recognize that the revolutions that defined nations were never entirely spontaneous. They were the culmination of years, sometimes decades, of planning, persuasion, and discreet guidance. In the quiet shadows of Europe and the Americas, revolutions were crafted, their chaos meticulously orchestrated to transform societies, leaving us touched. Oh wonder, how much of what we call history is truly our own, and how much has been guided by hands we will never see. In the quiet halls of Yale University, where ivy climbs stone and history whispers from every lecture hall, a society was formed in 1832 that would quietly shape the United States in ways most would never suspect. Known as Skull and Bones, it began as a secret club for a small group of ambitious students. But its influence would soon stretch far beyond the confines of a campus in New Haven, embedding itself into the very fabric of American power. Membership in Skull and Bones is highly selective, granted only to those deemed exceptional in intellect, ambition, and character. From the outset, its rituals, symbols, and oaths were designed to foster absolute loyalty, secrecy, and a shared sense of destiny. Initiates were introduced to the mysteries of the society through ceremonies both enigmatic and intense, rituals that blurred the line between tradition, symbolism, and psychological initiation. It was here that future leaders were not merely taught the ways of society, but subtly prepared to wield influence over the nation itself. What made Skull and Bones unique was its network. Alumni did not simply graduate and disappear. They carried with them a lifelong bond, a web of connections spanning law, finance, politics, and industry. Presidents, senators, and key figures in major corporations emerged from this society, often quietly collaborating, mentoring, or guiding one another. Through this network, ideas and strategies flowed in silence, shaping policy and decisions long before they reached the public eye. The secrecy of Skull and Bones has fueled curiosity, speculation, and controversy for nearly 2 centuries. Its ceremonies, rumored to involve symbolic acts meant to sever worldly attachments, inspired both fear and fascination. Outsiders glimpse only fragments, coded symbols etched in stone, the skull and crossbones emblem, and whispered tales of elaborate initiati on rites. Yet behind the theatrics lies a more profound purpose: to cultivate a sense of shared responsibility and influence, preparing its members for roles where they could quietly steer the nation. Throughout American history, the presence of Bonesmen in critical positions is striking. From the Oval Office to Congress, from the boardrooms of major corporations to the halls of justice, their impact is subtle yet undeniable. Policies, alliances, and pivotal decisions often bear the fingerprints of individuals connected through this hidden network. The society does not seek to dominate openly. Its power lies in its ability to guide, advise, and influence from the shadows, shaping the trajectory of a nation without ever revealing its hand. The allure of Skull and Bones is not only its secrecy, but its endurance. For nearly 2 centuries, it has maintained traditions, adapted to changing times, and continued to produce leaders capable of steering events on a national and even global scale. The society reminds us that influence does not always wear a visible crown. Sometimes it whispers, nudges, and quietly aligns the paths of those destined to lead, long before the public ever becomes aware of its presence. To understand Skull and Bones is to glimpse the hidden architecture of power. It is a society that bridges ambition, loyalty, and discretion, showing that the shaping of a nation often occurs far from public scrutiny. As we look upon the history of America, from wars and elections to economic shifts and social movements, the presence of hidden hands guiding events reminds us that history is rarely as transparent as it appears. The true architects of influence may never be seen, but their legacy endures, woven into the story of the nation itself. Within the ivy-clad walls of Yale University, beneath the polished halls and lecture rooms known to the public, lies a world that few have ever glimpsed. This world is Skull and Bones, a society whose power is not only derived from its members, but from the rituals that bind them together, rituals shrouded in secrecy, intensity, and symbolism. Initiation into this society is not merely a welcome, it is a transformation, a passage into a brotherhood that demands unwavering loyalty and absolute discretion. The ceremonies of Skull and Bones are legendary, whispered about for generations, yet details remain elusive. What is known suggests a blend of psychological challenge and symbolic performance. New initiates, often young men at the threshold of ambition and discovery, are subjected to trials that confront fear, humility, and identity. They are said to lie in coffins, facing the inevitability of mortality, a stark reminder of the impermanence of worldly concerns and the importance of the bonds they are about to forge. Through such intense symbolism, the society communicates that membership is a responsibility greater than personal gain. The initiates are guided through elaborate rituals involving obscure symbols, cryptic gestures, and the use of symbolic vessels. These acts are more than spectacle. They are tests of obedience, endurance, and discretion. Drinking from a vessel, performing silent oaths, and enduring periods of isolation are all intended to strip away ego, reinforce secrecy, and cultivate a shared sense of destiny. By the end of the process, a new member emerges not simply as an alumnus, but as a part of an unbreakable network, bound by shared knowledge, experience, and purpose. What makes these rituals so powerful is the psychology behind them. In confronting fear, vulnerability, and the unknown, initiates internalize the lessons of loyalty, secrecy, and responsibility. They are taught that the society's influence is not wielded through force or public authority, but through subtle guidance, quiet persuasion, and the strategic use of information. Those who emerge from the initiation are forever connected to a lineage of individuals who have quietly shaped the course of the nation, from politics to business to law. Beyond the dramatic acts, the rituals serve a deeper purpose, the cultivation of trust and cohesion. Each symbolic act, every hidden gesture, is a lesson in alignment, reminding members that their power is collective and that the strength of the society lies in unity. Secrets are not simply rules, they are lifelines, binding the network together across generations. The shocking nature of some ceremonies is not intended to frighten for the sake of fear. It is designed to imprint lessons indelibly upon the mind, ensuring that loyalty and discretion are never compromised. Over the decades, these initiation rites have remained remarkably consistent, preserving the society's traditions while adapting subtly to new generations. The blend of fear, ritual, and symbolism continues to produce leaders who operate with discretion, influence, and purpose. The society's greatest power is not in the spectacle, but in the invisible threads woven between its members, threads forged in darkness, strengthened in secrecy, and carried forward into every corner of influence. The dark rituals of Skull and Bones remind us that power is often cultivated far from public view, in ceremonies that test the mind, spirit, and allegiance. They are a testament to the society's enduring philosophy. Influence is not given, it is earned, proven through trials that transcend the ordinary and prepare members to navigate the complexities of leadership, secrecy, and historical consequence. In these hidden chambers, the future architects of society are first, quietly shaped, their loyalty and vision sealed in ritual, ready to guide the world from the shadows. Throughout history, power rarely exists in isolation. Behind the grand narratives of empires and revolutions lies a quieter, subtler network. The secret societies whose influence spans continents and centuries. Skull and Bones, the Freemasons, and other esoteric orders have not operated merely as discrete groups. They are threads in a vast tapestry of hidden influence, woven carefully through time, space, and circumstance. Each society holds its own rituals, codes, and teachings, yet across their veils of secrecy, there exists a remarkable convergence, a shared dedication to knowledge, loyalty, and the shaping of human events. The Freemasons, with origins in the stonemason guilds of medieval Europe, preserved wisdom and symbols from antiquity, embedding lessons in architecture, mathematics, and moral philosophy. Skull and Bones, emerging centuries later within the halls of Yale, embraced ritual, secrecy, and networked influence, creating a powerful alumni system that quietly extended into the political and corporate heart of America. While separated by geography and culture, both organizations demonstrate a common principle, that influence is cultivated in shadows, and knowledge, guarded carefully, is power. Historians and researchers have long noted overlapping memberships, allegiances, and shared networks between these societies. Prominent families, powerful politicians, industrial leaders, and scholars often appear in multiple orders, serving as living bridges between different spheres of hidden influence. These connections suggest that secret societies do not operate in isolation. Instead, they form a hidden web, transmitting ideas, strategies, and influence across generations. In essence, they are the unseen architects behind events that define nations. Rituals, symbolism, and oaths of secrecy are more than tradition. They are mechanisms of cohesion. Across societies, dissimilar structures emerge. Initiation rites that test loyalty and endurance, symbols that communicate layered meaning, and networks that link individuals across cities and continents. By intertwining members of different societies, a single initiative, idea, or movement can be coordinated across time and space, often long before the public even becomes aware of its existence. A political policy debated in Washington may echo teachings preserved in a lodge centuries earlier. A global financial strategy may reflect networks cultivated quietly by overlapping memberships. This network extends beyond politics and economics. Philosophical ideas, esoteric knowledge, and moral principles often travel through these societies, shaping cultural movements, artistic endeavors, and technological developments. Hidden correspondences, coded symbols, and shared rituals act as both a map and a language, allowing members to communicate intentions and guidance subtly, even across continents. What appears to be coincidence or independent innovation may, in fact, be a carefully orchestrated result of interconnected societies. The historical depth of these connections is equally striking. Links can be traced to European courts, revolutionary salons, and colonial administrations, suggesting that the influence of secret societies is not confined to modern times, but is a continuation of centuries of hidden governance. These connections illustrate a continuity of knowledge and power that defies conventional understanding of history, reminding us that the story of human events is often more complex than it appears. Yet, despite these connections, the societies themselves remain shrouded in mystery. Members rarely discuss their affiliations, and the public sees only fragments of the network's scope. Even historians struggle to map its full reach, relying on scattered records, whispered testimonies, and the occasional revelation. It is this very secrecy that sustains their power, ensuring that the true extent of influence remains obscured while quietly guiding the trajectory of nations and ideas. The connections across secret societies reveal a world where history is shaped not just by visible leaders or armies, but by networks of knowledge, loyalty, and influence maintained in shadows. These societies remind us that the threads of power are often invisible, their effects subtle yet enduring, and that the decisions that shape our world may have roots that reach far deeper than the surface of recorded history. In the quiet corridors of lodges, halls, and private chambers, the web of influence continues to grow, binding centuries, continents, and generations in an intricate and powerful network that has quietly molded the course of humanity. At the close of the 19th century, in the shadowed streets and candlelit chambers of London, a society emerged that would forever alter the perception of mysticism and hidden knowledge. Known as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, this secretive group drew upon centuries of esoteric wisdom, from ancient Egyptian rituals to Kabbalistic teachings and alchemical practices. Its founders envisioned a path to enlightenment that blended intellectual rigor with the mystical, a journey where the mind, spirit, and universe were intricately connected. Membership in the Golden Dawn was selective, reserved for those who demonstrated both intellectual curiosity and a willingness to explore realms unseen. Recruits were initiated through elaborate ceremonies where symbolic gestures, complex hierarchies, and coded knowledge revealed the hidden architecture of the universe. Each ritual was designed not merely to impress, but to transform, guiding members toward mastery over both self and circumstance. They studied astrology, divination, sacred geometry, and the ancient arts of ceremonial magic, believing that the mind could shape reality when disciplined with knowledge and intention. The society's influence extended far beyond the confines of its secret chambers. Artists, poets, and writers were drawn to the Golden Dawn's teachings, finding inspiration in its symbolic systems and mystical philosophies. Figures such as W.B. Yeats and Aleister Crowley, though controversial in their own right, were shaped by the principles and practices of this clandestine order. Through literature, theatre, and personal networks, the Golden Dawn's esoteric ideas seeped into wider culture, subtly influencing thought, creativity, and even politics in the decades that followed. Central to the Golden Dawn's power was its system of symbolism. Every ritual, sigil, and diagram held layers of meaning, intended to train perception and attune consciousness to forces beyond ordinary awareness. The members believed that by understanding these symbols, they could unlock latent potential in the mind and manipulate unseen currents in the physical world. Knowledge in this society was not abstract. It was a tool, a means to reshape reality itself. This pursuit of mastery over hidden forces created a potent blend of intellectual and mystical authority, giving the Golden Dawn an influence far greater than its modest membership might suggest. Yet the society was more than a study group of the arcane. It was a network of subtle power. Members often held influential positions in society, as scholars, writers, and advisors, allowing the principles of the Golden Dawn to ripple outward into public life. Ideas that originated in ritual chambers quietly found expression in social movements, philosophical debates, and artistic revolutions. Even today, echoes of their teachings can be traced in occult practices, literature, and the cultural imagination, a testament to their enduring impact. The Golden Dawn's legacy reminds us that knowledge and influence are not always wielded through armies, legislatures, or overt authority. Sometimes they operate in the mind, shaping perception, guiding thought, and inspiring generations to see beyond the visible world. Their mastery of symbolism and ritual exemplifies how esoteric knowledge can quietly steer both individuals and societies, leaving marks on history that are subtle yet profound. In exploring the Golden Dawn, we witness the convergence of intellect and mysticism, a society that sought not just to understand the world, but to command it in subtle and transformative ways. Their influence demonstrates that power can reside in hidden knowledge, in the symbols we overlook, and in the minds disciplined enough to see beyond the ordinary. The Golden Dawn. One stands as a testament to the enduring human fascination with the unseen, a reminder that even in the shadows, profound forces are at work, shaping our reality. The currents of history often appear to flow through grand battles, political upheavals, and monumental inventions. Yet beneath this surface lies a quieter, more subtle influence, a force that shapes minds, inspires movements, and guides the course of human thought. One of the most enigmatic of these forces was the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, whose teachings in ritual, astrology, and esoteric wisdom rippled far beyond the shadowed halls of London. Though small in numbers, the Golden Dawn exerted an extraordinary influence on generations of occult practitioners, artists, and intellectuals. Members were drawn to its complex system of knowledge, where every symbol, astrological alignment, and ritual held a purpose. They were trained to perceive the hidden patterns of the universe, to read the invisible threads connecting mind, spirit, and cosmos. In these teachings, magic was not superstition. It was methodical, disciplined, and intellectual. Through this structured approach, the society nurtured individuals capable of shaping ideas and culture from the shadows. The Golden Dawn's influence extended beyond the arcane and into the world of thought and creativity. Poets, playwrights, and writers absorbed its teachings, incorporating esoteric symbolism into literature and art that would resonate for decades. W.B. Yeats, one of its most celebrated members, wove occult philosophy into his poetry, while figures such as Aleister Crowley adapted its rituals to explore the boundaries of human consciousness. Their work reached audiences far beyond the society itself, subtly guiding perceptions of spirituality, mysticism, and the unseen forces that govern existence. Astrology, a cornerstone of the Golden Dawn, provided another avenue of influence. By understanding the alignment of stars and celestial patterns, members sought to anticipate and shape events, guiding decisions and actions in accordance with cosmic law. Even outside the society, these ideas permeated modern mysticism, ceremonial practices, and alternative philosophies. The teachings encouraged a worldview where human destiny was intertwined with universal forces, and where knowledge of the hidden could empower those who sought it. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the Golden Dawn's legacy is how it shaped thought leaders without ever appearing in history books. Politicians, scholars, and visionaries who encountered its teachings carried its principles into the public sphere. Ideas born in private rituals quietly filtered into debates about morality, governance, and the potential of human consciousness. The society demonstrated that influence need not be overt. It can operate in whispers, in symbols, in the cultivation of insight, shaping the minds that would go on to shape the world. In an era dominated by tangible power, the rise of empires, revolutions, and industrial progress, the Golden Dawn's subtle guidance reminds us that history is also the product of hidden forces. Knowledge of the unseen, mastery of symbols, and disciplined exploration of the mind can ripple outward, creating waves that touch culture, philosophy, and even political thought. The society's rituals and secret teachings were not mere curiosities. They were instruments designed to refine perception, to cultivate understanding, and to influence the course of human civilization in ways few could trace. The Golden Dawn stands as a testament to the quiet yet profound impact of mystical knowledge on modern history. Its influence teaches that power is not always wielded through armies or governments. Sometimes it resides in the mind, in the subtle shaping of ideas, in the disciplined pursuit of understanding that allows one to guide the world from the shadows. The echoes of the Golden Dawn persist, whispering across time, reminding us that the unseen often leaves the deepest mark on human history. In the shadowed corners of early 20th century Germany, a secretive order quietly cultivated ideas that would echo with terrifying force across the world. Known as the Thule Society, it was a gathering of scholars, mystics, and nationalists who sought not only knowledge of the arcane, but also the reshaping of society according to their vision. This was a group where myth, mysticism, and politics intertwined, forging a philosophy that merged the ethereal with the deeply ideological. The society drew its inspiration from ancient Germanic legends, occult texts, and esoteric traditions from across Europe. Members believed that the destiny of a nation could be guided by hidden forces, and that by understanding these forces, they could mold history itself. The Thule Society's teachings were not merely intellectual exercises. They were rituals, meditations, and symbolic practices designed to align the individual, and ultimately the nation, with what they considered a higher, mystical order. Among its members were influential thinkers, writers, and aristocrats who championed nationalism under the guise of cultural revival. They romanticized a mythic past, invoking symbols of power, purity, and supremacy. These ideas did not remain confined to obscure gatherings. The society's vision seeped into the larger political currents of Germany, providing an ideological foundation for movements that promised national rebirth. It was here, in these secretive halls, that the seeds of extreme ideology were nurtured, blending mystical belief with fervent political ambition. The influence of the Thule Society became more evident as Adolf Hitler rose to power. While the society itself was shrouded in secrecy, its ideas permeated the cultural and political atmosphere of Germany, offering a framework that justified expansionism, racial ideology, and the pursuit of absolute authority. The mysticism Opus Dei. If the Thule Society provided symbolic and psychological tools for manipulation, convincing adherents that their cause was preordained and divinely sanctioned. Every emblem, every ritual, and every invocation of ancestral myth carried weight far beyond the lodge, shaping the worldview of those who would go on to enact history's darkest chapters. Yet the society's power was subtle. It did not march in armies or issue manifestos to the public. Instead, it influenced minds, nurtured loyalty, and cultivated belief in a higher destiny. It merged esoteric knowledge with nationalist fervor, teaching that understanding the unseen, symbols, myths, and secret teachings could translate into real-world influence. Through this fusion, the Thule Society became a crucible in which ideology and mysticism were inseparable, a hidden architect behind some of the most catastrophic political shifts in modern history. The legacy of the Thule Society is a chilling reminder of how ideas, when cloaked in secrecy and bolstered by ritual, can gain a power far greater than any army. It demonstrates that the invisible forces shaping history are not always benevolent. In the interplay of mysticism, ambition, and ideology, the seeds of darkness can grow silently until they dominate the course of nations. Understanding the Thule Society is to recognize the fragility of human society when knowledge and belief are manipulated from the shadows. The order itself may have faded, yet its influence lingered, carried forward by those who absorbed its philosophy, turning secret teachings into public devastation. History often speaks of leaders, wars, and treaties, but it rarely reveals the hidden networks and mystical ambitions that quietly shape them. In the case of the Thule Society, the unseen hand was both ideological and spiritual, quietly guiding a nation toward a destiny that would alter the world forever. Deep within the redwood forests of Northern California lies a place shrouded in secrecy, a secluded enclave where power, wealth, and influence converge each summer. Bohemian Grove, spanning over 2,700 acres of towering trees and hidden glades, is not merely a retreat. It is a sanctuary where the world's most powerful individuals gather away from the eyes of the public to think, to converse, and, some allege, to shape the course of nations. Established in 1872 as a gathering of artists, writers, and affluent businessmen seeking respite from city life, the Grove evolved over decades into something far more consequential. Membership expanded to include top politicians, business magnates, military leaders, and cultural icons. Its isolation, reinforced by strict security and layers of confidentiality, ensures that what occurs within remains unseen, fueling speculation, myth, and intrigue. Visitors enter a world that feels both familiar and surreal. Rustic cabins and lodges blend into the natural landscape, yet the air is heavy with tradition, symbolism, and ritual. Each year, the first night is marked by the enigmatic cremation of care, a ceremony conducted around a massive 40-foot owl statue. Cloaked figures participate in symbolic gestures, ostensibly to cast off their worldly worries and responsibilities. While the organizers claim it is purely theatrical, the imagery, fire, shadows, and ritualistic motions has captivated and unsettled observers for decades. It is a performance where the boundary between the symbolic and the strategic blurs, leaving outsiders to wonder whether decisions of global consequence are ever influenced here. Beyond ritual, the Grove functions as a discreet forum for discussion. Attendees meet in informal settings to exchange ideas, debate policies, and, some allege, quietly influence political and economic directions. It is said that some of the most critical conversations shaping modern history, The negotiations, alliances, and strategies have taken place beneath the canopy of these ancient trees. In this world, hierarchy is measured not only by wealth or office, but by the subtle ability to guide thought, to influence without announcing intent. Yet, Bohemian Grove's greatest mystique lies in its secrecy. Outsiders are barred entry, journalists have faced intimidation, and the gatherings themselves are guarded with almost military precision. For those inside, the Grove offers freedom from scrutiny, a place where agreements may be reached, ideas incubated, and power exercised quietly. For those outside, it represents the unsettling notion that some of the world's most consequential decisions are made beyond public oversight. The Grove also serves as a mirror to the evolution of elite societies. Its members carry forward a tradition older than the Grove itself, the notion that influence, strategy, and discretion are as vital as wealth or office. The secluded forest becomes both stage and sanctuary, where the pursuit of control is veiled beneath leisure, art, and ceremony. Here, the line between recreation and governance is deliberately blurred, leaving historians, journalists, and observers to ponder the true extent of its power. In the end, Bohemian Grove is more than a forest or a retreat. It is a symbol of the hidden layers of influence that quietly guide the world. Its rituals, conversations, and alliances suggest that even in a modern era defined by transparency and information, certain decisions remain shrouded, made in whispers beneath the redwoods. As we consider the Grove, we are reminded that power is not always wielded openly. Sometimes it dwells quietly, in hidden corners, shaping destinies in ways the public may never fully understand. As the sun dips behind the towering redwoods of Bohemian Grove, a hush falls across the forest. The first night of the annual gathering begins with a ritual that has captured the imagination and the unease of the outside world for decades: the cremation of care. At the heart of this enigmatic ceremony stands Moloch, a massive 40-foot owl statue, its eyes seeming to pierce the gathering darkness, a silent sentinel presiding over the arcane proceedings. The ritual itself is a striking tableau of fire, shadow, and symbolic gestures. Cloaked figures move in solemn procession, carrying torches that cast flickering light across the forest floor. A ceremonial effigy, representing the burdens and worries of the world, is set ablaze. The flames leap and dance, symbolically consuming the cares that weigh upon the assembled members: billionaires, political leaders, military figures, and cultural icons. In this fleeting moment, they are said to be freed from moral restraint, unburdened by conscience, ready to think and act without worldly constraints. Observers, both fascinated and unnerved, have long speculated about the true purpose of this ritual. Is it merely an elaborate theatrical performance designed to entertain and unify, a symbolic gesture allowing powerful men to shed the pressures of their public lives? Or does it signify something far deeper, a psychological conditioning, a release that enables decisions in the coming days to be made without ethical hesitation? The secrecy surrounding the Grove ensures that no outsider ever knows for certain. Every gesture, every word, every flicker of flame is carefully shielded from prying eyes. The ceremony begins in silence, broken only by the chanting of participants. The owl, a symbol of wisdom and watchfulness, dominates the clearing, its hollow gaze a reminder that nothing escapes notice. As the effigy burns, members reportedly reflect upon their responsibilities, their fears, and their ambitions, then cast them into the fire, an act both literal and metaphorical. The flames illuminate the faces of those present, revealing expressions that are at once solemn, contemplative, and, to some, unsettlingly detached. To many critics and conspiracy theorists, the cremation of care represents a chilling insight into the nature of elite gatherings. It suggests a place where moral boundaries may be temporarily suspended, where the world's most influential figures come together not just to socialize, but to prepare themselves, psychologically and symbolically, for the weight of decisions that could impact nations, economies, and millions of lives. The imagery of the burning effigy, the solemnity of the procession, and the looming owl combine to create an atmosphere both awe-inspiring and ominous. Yet defenders of the ritual argue that it is a centuries-old form of theatrical symbolism, a communal act meant to unite participants in shared reflection and release. They emphasize its allegorical nature, claiming that the cremation of care is no more than an imaginative way for adults to let go of personal stress, akin to rituals found in countless cultures throughout history. Still, the mystique endures, fueled by the Grove's strict secrecy and the impossibility of independent verification. The cremation of care is more than just a ritual. It is a lens into the intersection of power, symbolism, and human psychology. Whether it is seen as a harmless ceremony or a window into the hidden mechanisms of influence, it captivates the imagination and inspires unease. Beneath the redwoods, around the towering owl, fire transforms wood to ash, concerned to symbolic freedom, and ordinary men into participants in a spectacle that has, for over a century, left the world outside pondering. What truly happens behind the forest's guarded gates? As the last flames die down and silence settles once more, the ritual concludes, yet its shadow lingers. The cremation of care remains one of the most mysterious and haunting traditions of Bohemian Grove, a reminder that symbolism and secrecy often walk hand in hand, shaping the minds of those who hold the levers of modern power. In the quiet halls of Europe's most exclusive hotels, far from the glare of cameras and public scrutiny, a gathering occurs each year that shapes the course of modern history. This is the Bilderberg Group, a clandestine assembly of the world's most influential figures, where politics, economics, and strategy are quietly discussed behind tightly guarded doors. From its inception in 1954, the group has cultivated an aura of mystery, drawing kings, prime ministers, CEOs, media moguls, and financiers into an annual meeting shrouded in secrecy. The group began with a simple ambition: to foster dialogue between Europe and North America in the post-war era. Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, along with a handful of visionaries, sought a private forum where ideas could be exchanged freely, without political pressures or media scrutiny. Over decades, however, the meetings evolved. Today, the Bilderberg Group is widely regarded as a shadowy arena where the levers of global power are subtly adjusted, and where the future of nations may be quietly influenced long before the world ever hears of it. Security at these gatherings is uncompromising. Hotels are closed off, airspace carefully monitored, and private security forces ensure that no outsider can penetrate the perimeter. Journalists and protesters gather outside, often in vain, their eyes straining for glimpses of the people inside. Attendees, selected with meticulous precision, include sitting heads of state, former leaders, and the titans of global finance and industry. These are individuals who wield influence over governments, corporations, and economies, men and women whose decisions echo across continents. Inside, discussions are held under the strictest rules of confidentiality. There are no press releases, no public statements, and no official transcripts. Conversations cover topics ranging from international trade to military strategy, from financial regulations to technological developments. According to insiders and leaked reports, significant global events, the creation of the euro, major economic reforms, and even the planning of international treaties, have roots in these secretive sessions. Every dialogue is a chess move, subtle yet potentially monumental, shaping the world in ways that remain invisible to ordinary citizens. Critics argue that the Bilderberg Group is more than a forum for dialogue. They claim it acts as a shadow government, a silent hand guiding the policies of nations and influencing the rise of political leaders. Observers note that many attendees appear in global positions of power shortly after participating in the meetings, raising questions about whether elections and public decisions are sometimes preceded by unseen agreements made behind closed doors. The sheer concentration of influence within the group makes the possibilities both fascinating and unsettling. Supporters counter that Bilderberg is simply a private space for free discussion, a place where leaders and thinkers can exchange ideas without public pressure or partisan agendas. Yet the secrecy, the selection of attendees, and the historical weight of decisions discussed ensure that suspicion follows every meeting. The image of power operating unseen, beyond accountability, has become inseparable from the group's identity. The aura of mystery surrounding the Bilderberg Group is not accidental. It is cultivated, part of a deliberate design to shield conversations from public scrutiny while simultaneously amplifying speculation. This duality, absolute secrecy paired with extraordinary influence, has cemented the group's place in the modern imagination as both a symbol of elite power and a mirror reflecting society's anxieties about control and governance. As the participants leave, their faces calm and composed, the world outside remains unaware of what agreements, warnings, or strategies were quietly formulated within those guarded walls. The Bilderberg Group reminds us that true power rarely announces itself. Often, it moves silently, shaping events in the shadows, leaving only traces for the curious to follow. Here, behind closed doors, history is negotiated, ideas take form, and the world's future may be quietly decided, long before the public ever becomes aware. Deep within the heart of the Vatican, amid centuries-old corridors and sacred halls, exists a force often unseen yet profoundly influential. This is Opus Dei, an organization cloaked in devotion, discipline, and secrecy. Founded in 1928 by the Spanish priest José María Escrivá, Opus Dei, literally work of God, began as a movement encouraging lay people to live their faith actively in everyday life. Yet over the decades, it transformed into one of the most enigmatic and powerful entities within the Catholic Church, wielding influence that stretches far beyond spiritual guidance. Opus Dei operates with a level of discipline and secrecy that rivals the most clandestine organizations. Members, from ordinary believers to priests, bishops, and even high-ranking Vatican officials, pledge unwavering loyalty. Their commitment is measured not only in service, but in adherence to strict internal practices, some of which are shrouded in mystery. Accounts from former members and leaked documents reveal intense routines of devotion, including private rituals and forms of self-mortification, acts intended to strengthen spiritual focus and demonstrate absolute fidelity. These extreme practices, though controversial, are viewed within the organization as pathways to deeper moral and spiritual fortitude. Yet the true power of Opus Dei lies not only in devotion, but in its subtle influence over global affairs. Within the Vatican, members quietly guide decisions that affect the lives of over 1 billion Catholics. From papal elections to doctrinal policies, Opus Dei's presence ensures that certain voices and perspectives resonate at the highest levels of the Church. Critics argue that the organization serves as a hidden hand, steering the Church's response to scandals, financial dealings, and political pressures, maintaining the institution's authority and shielding its secrets from public scrutiny. Beyond the spiritual realm, Opus Dei's reach extends into politics, economics, and education worldwide. Leaders from Spain to Latin America have sought counsel from members of the organization, and its network of schools and universities fosters a generation of individuals loyal not only to faith, but to the principles and priorities espoused by Opus Dei. The organization's discreet influence on policymaking, legal frameworks, and even global diplomacy has fueled speculation that its impact reaches far beyond religious devotion, quietly shaping secular power structures while remaining almost entirely invisible to the outside world. The secrecy surrounding Opus Dei amplifies its mystique. Its members rarely speak openly about internal affairs, creating an aura of enigma that fuels both fascination and fear. Observers describe the organization as a blend of devotion, discipline, and strategy, where loyalty is absolute and influence is exercised subtly, often through persuasion, mentorship, and trusted networks rather than overt command. This silent power, intertwined with centuries-old traditions of the Church, positions Opus Dei as a formidable presence in shaping decisions that reverberate far beyond the Vatican walls. Yet the most unsettling aspect of Opus Dei may be the duality it embodies. Outwardly, it represents faith, service, and moral guidance, a beacon for spiritual devotion. Behind this facade, it quietly directs, advises, and sometimes controls decisions at the highest echelons of religious and worldly power. For those watching from the outside, the organization embodies both reverence and unease, illustrating how loyalty, discipline, and secrecy can converge to wield influence in ways both profound and invisible. Opus Dei reminds us that true power is not always loud or visible. Often it moves through quiet devotion, strategic positioning, and unwavering discipline. Within its secretive corridors, decisions are shaped, alliances formed, and destinies quietly influenced. In a world where spiritual authority intersects with worldly ambition, Opus Dei stands as a testament to the subtle, enduring, and sometimes unsettling ways influence can be exercised, far from the gaze of the public eye. In the sun-baked landscapes of Sicily, amid winding streets and crumbling stone villages, a hidden power quietly took root centuries ago. This was the Kosanostra, a society built on loyalty, secrecy, and a code so rigid it could mean life or death. What began as a loose network of families protecting their lands and interests gradually evolved into one of the most formidable criminal organizations in history. But Kosanostra was never merely about crime. It was governance from the shadows, a parallel society where rules, justice, and authority operated far from the eyes of official governments. Membership in Kosanostra is not a choice. It is a bond sealed by ritual, oath, and unbreakable loyalty. The infamous Code of Omerta dictates silence above all else. Betrayal is met with swift and brutal punishment. In this hidden world, loyalty and obedience are the currency of survival. From extortion and smuggling to gambling and control over legitimate businesses, Cosa Nostra carved its dominion over Sicily and later expanded to the bustling cities of the United States. New York, Chicago, Las Vegas, each became a stage for a carefully orchestrated network of influence, where violence and negotiation were wielded with equal skill. The true genius of Cosa Nostra lies in its ability to infiltrate legitimate society. Politicians, law enforcement, and even judges have often been complicit, whether through fear, bribery, or the subtle sway of influence. Decisions made in quiet rooms, far from courtrooms or public scrutiny, could determine who would rise to power or who would fall. In many ways, Cosa Nostra functions as a shadow government, dictating the flow of money, resources, and political outcomes without ever revealing its hand. Across the Atlantic, Cosa Nostra's power grew alongside waves of Italian immigrants seeking opportunity in a new world. In American cities, the mafia established. It intricate networks controlling illegal enterprises, but also legitimate ones, construction, waste management, entertainment, crafting a web of influence that could bend the rules of society to its advantage. Its leaders, often shrouded in myth and fear, became symbols of both ruthless efficiency and the dark allure of hidden authority. Ritual and tradition are as important as power itself. Inductions, secret handshakes, and ceremonies cement loyalty and transmit values from one generation to the next. Each act, each decision, reinforces the notion that Cosa Nostra is more than a criminal enterprise. It is a social structure, a code of life where honor, fear, and influence converge. These rites preserve unity and secrecy, ensuring that the organization remains impervious to outsiders and untraceable by conventional law enforcement. But the story of Cosa Nostra is not simply one of violence and intimidation. It is a story of strategic mastery, of understanding how to bend systems without breaking them, how to use society's own structures to maintain dominance. Through careful planning, alliances, and subtle manipulation, Cosa Nostra exerts a power that few see, yet touches countless lives. It is a reminder that control is not always exercised openly. Sometimes it thrives in shadows, hidden in plain sight. From Sicily to Manhattan, Las Vegas to global markets, Kosanostra demonstrates how secrecy, discipline, and strategic vision can transform criminal activity into a force that shapes politics, society, and economies. It is a chilling illustration of shadow governance, a world operating parallel to our own, where rules are dictated by loyalty, violence, and the silent hand of authority. Kosanostra endures not because of fear alone, but because it understands a fundamental truth, that power, when hidden, becomes nearly unstoppable. In the neon-lit streets of Tokyo and the serene alleys of Kyoto, an invisible power quietly shapes Japanese society. Known as the Yakuza, this syndicate is unlike any criminal organization in the world. Its roots stretch back to Japan's Edo period, where outcasts and street merchants banded together for protection and survival. Over centuries, these groups evolved, blending honor, tradition, and strict codes into a structured organization that commands both fear and respect. The Yakuza is built upon a rigid hierarchy. At its apex sit the bosses, leaders whose authority is absolute, their word binding. Below them are layers of loyal members, each bound by oath, ritual, and allegiance. Entry into the Yakuza is not a simple initiation. It is a commitment sealed in blood. Prospective members often undergo brutal rituals, including yubitsume, the ceremonial cutting of fingers to demonstrate loyalty and submission. These acts of self-sacrifice reinforce a bond that transcends fear, ensuring cohesion and obedience within the syndicate. But the Yakuza is not merely a criminal enterprise. It is a force woven into the fabric of Japan itself. Its influence extends into legitimate business, politics, and even public life. From construction companies to entertainment industries, the Yakuza quietly exerts control, guiding deals, shaping economic outcomes, and consolidating power through subtle intimidation. In times of national disaster, such as earthquakes or floods, the Yakuza often appears in public acts of charity, an unusual blend of benevolence and calculation designed to maintain public favor and legitimacy. Honor is at the core of Yakuza identity. Unlike chaotic gangs, they follow strict codes of conduct, emphasizing loyalty, respect, and adherence to hierarchy. Violence, though a constant tool, is carefully measured, used strategically to enforce rules, maintain control, or protect their interests. This combination of ritual, tradition, and calculated brutality allows the Yakuza to operate in the shadows while remaining remarkably resilient, even in a society known for law and order. The Yakuza's reach extends far beyond Japan's borders. Through international networks, they have connections in global finance, organized crime, and corporate ventures. This modern evolution allows them to influence trade, investment, and even political decisions abroad, demonstrating that true power is not always wielded openly, but often through subtle manipulation and strategic alliances. Symbols and tattoos tell the story of their identity. Elaborate full-body tattoos, painstakingly inked over years, mark status, achievements, and loyalty within the organization. Each design carries history, myth, and meaning, binding members to a shared legacy that stretches back centuries. Rituals, oaths, and symbolism ensure that the Yakuza remains not just a syndicate, but a cultural institution, an organization where the past, present, and future are interwoven in secrecy and discipline. Yet despite its notoriety, the Yakuza thrives because it understands the delicate balance of society. They wield power without drawing excessive attention, maintaining a paradoxical presence, visible yet invisible, feared yet respected. Their influence on politics and business demonstrates that authority does not always reside in official institutions. Sometimes it flows quietly through networks of loyalty, tradition, and strategic enforcement. The Yakuza is a chilling reminder of how deeply organized power can embed itself into a nation's soul. It is an empire built on blood, honor, and unyielding discipline, demonstrating that control can be as much about tradition as it is about force. From Japan's shadowy streets to boardrooms and government offices, the Yakuza continues to shape. We see society in ways both subtle and profound, a testament to the enduring power of organized secrecy. Beneath the bustling streets of Hong Kong, the crowded alleys of Guangzhou, and the sprawling ports of mainland China, a hidden empire operates in shadows. This empire is the Triads, a network of secret societies whose origins trace back to the 18th century. Initially formed as clandestine resistance groups opposing the Qing dynasty, they evolved over centuries into a sprawling criminal network that dominates vast swaths of Asia and reaches across the globe. Unlike Western criminal organizations, the Triads are not a single entity, but a confederation of hundreds of smaller groups bound by tradition, loyalty, and a shared code of secrecy. Each faction maintains its own hierarchy, rituals, and symbols, yet they all adhere to similar principles: absolute secrecy, unquestioned loyalty, and the use of violence to enforce authority. Membership is a lifelong commitment, sealed through intricate initiation ceremonies involving oaths, blood rituals, and symbolic gestures that mark the entrant as part of a family larger than bloodlines. The Triads' power is multifaceted. They control major sectors of illegal trade, drug trafficking, human smuggling, and counterfeit goods, generating billions of dollars annually. But their influence extends beyond crime. They have woven themselves into legitimate businesses, from shipping and real estate to entertainment industries, allowing them to manipulate economies, launder funds, and maintain a veneer of legality while consolidating power. This dual existence, legal and illegal, makes them nearly untouchable, operating in the grey spaces between law and society. Symbols play a critical role in maintaining cohesion and identity. Dragons, phoenixes, and cryptic numbers mark the allegiance and rank of members. Tattoos, secret hand signs, and ceremonial regalia communicate loyalty, history, and authority. Every symbol, every ritual reinforces the collective identity, ensuring that each member is bound not only by fear or profit, but by a sense of belonging to something ancient, powerful, and enduring. The Triads are not merely reactive, they are strategic. They anticipate political shifts, economic opportunities, and social unrest, positioning themselves to benefit from change. Whether exploiting international drug routes, influencing corrupt officials, or infiltrating corporate networks, the Triads operate with patience and precision, understanding that subtle manipulation often yields far greater power than brute force alone. Their influence is international. Beyond Asia, Triad networks stretch to North America, Europe, and Australia, establishing strongholds in cities with large Chinese diasporas. They exploit global trade, immigration routes, and financial systems, demonstrating that modern crime is not bound by borders, but thrives in interconnected, hidden networks. This global reach elevates the Triads from mere criminals to architects of a shadow economy that shapes societies quietly but profoundly. Yet for all their criminal notoriety, the Triads are deeply bound by tradition. Codes of honor, respect for hierarchy, and ritualistic practices ensure continuity across generations. Members are indoctrinated from their first day, taught that betrayal is the gravest sin and that loyalty, once sworn, must be upheld even at the cost of life. It is this combination of ritual, loyalty, and strategy that allows the Triads to endure where others falter, maintaining a powerful grip over both illicit and legitimate spheres of influence. The Triads are a stark reminder of the invisible forces that silently shape the modern world. Through violence, commerce, and secrecy, they exert influence that transcends borders, law, and morality. From the shadows of ancient China to the skyscrapers of global finance, the Triads, empire persists, a testament to the enduring power of secrecy, tradition, and calculated control. Beneath the surface of our modern world, beyond the scrutiny of media, governments, and public opinion, there exists a network of influence that few dare to acknowledge. These are the modern secret societies, organizations that operate quietly, yet their decisions ripple through the very fabric of global politics, economics, and social systems. They are no longer bound to mystical rituals or hidden lodges in dark forests. Today, their power is subtle, calculated, and woven seamlessly into the institutions that govern our lives. From sprawling boardrooms to exclusive retreats, influential figures gather to shape the trajectory of nations. Decisions about wars, trade agreements, financial crises, and technological breakthroughs are often discussed long before they reach public discourse. To the world, these events appear spontaneous, the product of democratic debate or market forces. Yet behind closed doors, small groups of elites quietly steer outcomes with precision, ensuring that their vision for the future is implemented before the masses even become aware. One of the hallmarks of these societies is their adaptability. Unlike historical secret orders, modern groups do not rely solely on symbolic initiation or arcane knowledge. Their methods are strategic, leveraging education, political appointments, corporate influence, and media control to expand their reach. Membership is drawn from the most powerful circles: presidents, prime ministers, CEOs of multinational corporations, military leaders, and intellectual elites. Each member is a node in a global web, tasked with executing a collective vision while maintaining the secrecy necessary to preserve power. This influence is most evident in times of crisis. Economic collapses, sudden market fluctuations, or international conflicts often have signatures of premeditated strategy. These crises are rarely accidental. They are opportunities for those who understand the levers of global power to consolidate influence, reshape alliances, and control resources. Through financial institutions, think tanks, and international organizations, modern secret societies quietly orchestrate outcomes that favor their objectives, all while presenting the illusion of chaos or democratic decision-making. Yet secrecy alone does not define them. These societies are also architects of ideology, subtly influencing public opinion, culture, and technological adoption. Through control of media, educational institutions, and digital platforms, they guide the narrative, shaping beliefs and behaviors on a global scale. In this way, power is maintained not just through coercion or wealth, but through the invisible shaping of thought and perception, molding societies to align with the strategic vision of those operating behind the curtain. Despite their vast influence, the most unsettling aspect of these societies is their elusiveness. They are not easily seen, not easily traced, and rarely acknowledged. Their meetings are private, their decisions unrecorded, and their networks invisible to the untrained eye. Yet the effects of their actions touch every corner of the world, from the prices we pay for basic goods to the wars that dominate headlines, from the technologies we embrace to the governments we elect. Modern secret societies remind us that true power rarely announces itself. It operates quietly, strategically, and with patience, shaping history while the world believes it moves freely. They are the hidden architects of our era, quietly steering humanity's course, leaving subtle but indelible marks on every facet of society. In a world that prizes transparency and freedom, their existence is a chilling testament to the enduring human impulse for control, influence, and secrecy. To the ordinary observer, the modern world appears vibrant, democratic, and free. Elections are celebrated, debates broadcasted, and the voice of the people seemingly resonates through governments. Yet beneath this surface, a far more intricate story unfolds, one that suggests freedom may be more fragile and more carefully curated than most dare to imagine. For even as ballots are cast and politicians sworn in, invisible hands quietly shape the outcome, steering societies along paths that remain largely hidden from public awareness. The mechanisms of democracy, from voting systems to policy debates, give the appearance of choice. Citizens believe they are architects of their future, yet the structures surrounding these choices are often prearranged. Political campaigns, media narratives, financial influence, and strategic lobbying all converge to guide public opinion in subtle but decisive ways. In essence, the people may vote, but the menu from which they choose is carefully curated by powerful elites operating behind the curtain. Throughout history, secret societies, elite networks, and influential organizations have learned the art of subtlety. Their power no longer relies on open confrontation or overt displays of authority. Instead, it manifests through carefully orchestrated institutions, banks that fund select agendas, media that shapes perception, educational systems that influence thought, and think tanks that quietly draft policies. Together, these channels create the illusion of open choice, masking a sophisticated system of control. The most unsettling realization is that influence extends far beyond politics. Cultural norms, economic opportunities, and even technological innovation can be guided by hidden agendas. Wars may be initiated, treaties negotiated, and crises engineered, all while public attention is directed elsewhere. To the average citizen, fee seems governed by chance and merit, but the truth is that unseen networks have long mastered the art of steering society, ensuring that major decisions unfold according to a predetermined vision. Yet the illusion is convincing. Freedom, in its visible form, still exists. People can vote, speak, and participate in civic life. But this visible freedom is only one layer of reality. Beneath it lies a network of influence that subtly shapes what is possible, what is desirable, and what is ultimately acceptable. It is a system that preserves the appearance of democracy while maintaining the real levers of power in the hands of a few. History is full of such paradoxes. Revolutions, reforms, and societal shifts often appear spontaneous, yet closer scrutiny frequently reveals hidden orchestration. Secretive organizations, elite networks, and influential individuals have always worked behind the scenes, quietly ensuring that major events serve broader strategic goals. Modern society is no different. Its freedom, as expansive as it seems, may mask the quiet dominance of those who prefer to operate unseen. Recognizing this duality does not negate the value of participation or awareness. Instead, it challenges us to look deeper, to question what is presented as fact, and to examine the forces shaping the world. Understanding that freedom may be an illusion, carefully constructed, skillfully maintained, allows us to begin disentangling genuine autonomy from manipulation. The illusion of freedom is not a simple deception. It is a sophisticated balance between visibility and concealment, between power and perception. It reminds us that while society may appear open, true autonomy requires awareness, critical thinking, and vigilance. Only by recognizing the hidden influence that shapes our world can humanity hope to reclaim its agency, transforming the facade of choice into a reality of empowerment. For centuries, the world has been shaped by unseen forces, networks of power that write history not in ink, but in influence. Their names are whispered in shadows, their symbols carved into the architecture of civilization itself. Yet, through every age, there have been those who begin to see the patterns, who dare to question the story handed down to them, and in doing so, begin the long journey toward awakening. Awakening is not a single moment, it is a process. It begins when we start to recognize the quiet machinery behind the illusion of freedom, the way decisions are made long before they ever reach the public eye. It begins when the mind no longer accepts the surface of things, but seeks to understand the roots buried beneath. Every revolution, every revelation in human history began with this spark, the simple act of seeing. Knowledge, as the ancients believed, is power. Yet power without awareness is submission. For too long, humanity has traded curiosity for comfort, trusting the institutions that shape our perception of truth. But as we peel back the layers of secrecy, from ancient orders and royal bloodlines to the modern circles of finance and influence, a single question emerges from the fog. Who truly controls the world? The answer is not found in a single organization or person, but in the system itself. A structure designed to sustain power, to keep a select few at the top, while the rest remain focused on survival. The real control lies in ideas, in narratives, in the invisible walls that shape how we think and what we believe to be possible. The true masters of the world do not rule with swords or armies, but with information, because what people believe defines what they will defend. And yet, despite the vastness of this web, cracks are forming. Technology, communication, and the global exchange of knowledge have begun to unravel centuries of silence. What was once confined to secret chambers and coded manuscripts is now at the fingertips of anyone willing to search. The age of secrecy is giving way to an age of awakening, but only for those who dare to look deeper. To awaken is to question everything: the history we were taught, the symbols we ignored, the patterns that repeat through time. It is to understand that truth has always been guarded, not because it is dangerous, but because it is liberating. The more we learn, the more we see how humanity's greatest power has never been in wealth or influence, but in awareness itself. So, as the curtain begins to lift, we are left with one final question, not just for historians or philosophers, but for every individual alive today. Can humanity reclaim its story? Can we take back the power we once entrusted to unseen hands and reshape our collective destiny? The answer lies within us. Every act of curiosity, every truth uncovered, every question asked against the tide of silence is a step toward awakening. The world may still be controlled from the shadows, but awareness turns those shadows into outlines, revealing the true shape of the forces that guide us. In the end, the greatest revolution begins not on battlefields or in halls of power, but within the human mind itself. For once we see the hidden truth, we are no longer controlled by it, we become the authors of our own story. As we close this chapter of hidden histories and shadowed powers, remember, the world is rarely what it seems. Secret societies, clandestine orders, and unseen networks have shaped the course of humanity for centuries, from ancient wisdom to modern global influence. Yet the truth is never truly lost. Knowledge awakens awareness, and awareness sparks change. By uncovering the hidden forces that steer our world, we reclaim the power to see, question, and understand. If you've journeyed with us this far, thank you for seeking the truths most would rather remain buried. Share your thoughts, tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mysteries of Earth. The world may be controlled in shadows, but light always finds a way in.